Hard as it is for us to all sometimes believe, there are places in the world where light switches are not an automatic, clean water is still a dream, and those things we often take for granted could be viewed as magical luxuries. For the past 8 years, one man has been working to change that idea in far-flung places such as Nigeria in West Africa. Hope that perhaps this can stem the tide of poor living conditions and make for a slightly better way of life. Let's welcome to MidPoint retired Navy Lieutenant Commander Joe Byers. We're also joined by the International Project Manager for the African Women Economic Consortium, Osimiri. We thank you both for joining us here today.
Thank you, Alan.
Joe, let me start with you first, because this all comes down to what's called a Joe Dome Monolithic Design. But before we get to that, what made you want to get involved in this portion of the world? Because quite frankly, there are some people who would look for places to save and places to go. They would never think of this.
Well, you know, Ed, I traveled to Liberia June 2009 on a mission trip representing a human relief organization, which I worked with as vice president. And I saw a lot of devastation and poverty during that mission trip. And the people there, you know, the children, the women were suffering. And it gave me a calling to want to pursue this further in other areas of West Africa.
So what did you see as an immediate need that then led you to go to what is the Joe Dome?
There's a lack of electricity throughout West Africa, Liberia, Nigeria, that it really it seems to be a perfect fit to integrate renewable energy technology designs into an area of the world that's very poor, and to not only do this, but do it in an educational environment through AWIC and through the university there on site.
So what is the Joe Dome?
The Joe Dome is a monolithic dome that's been designed and created for use in various areas of the world. It's an insulation concrete form dome that's created of concrete and polyurea foam, and it creates a insulation structure that's able to withstand hurricanes up to Category 5 in several areas of the U.S. The design's been proven and tested and works great. It lasts several hundred years with renewable energy integrated into it. It works well also in areas of the world with no electricity. Now,
it lasts several hundred years. I'm going to come back to you on that one, but I want to go to Dr. Osimiri here because, Doctor, when you heard this and when you first saw this idea, because we just saw the animation of it, what this is, and it is very futuristic, what did you think?
Well, in the first place, I would like to start by discussing why I even got into this program in the first place. I had the opportunity to travel to Nairobi, Kenya, as a delegate of the World Council of Religions for World Peace. They held their first international Africa most senior religious leadership conference. And there we were able to discuss and meet children who were impacted very negatively by the onslaught of HIV/AIDS. And I got the opportunity to meet a young man named Salim Yassin, who told us what life was like for children in the streets of Nairobi, Kenya. And he asked us why his only destiny is death. At the end of the project, at the end of the conference, we're asked to go to our different places and do something, be the voice for the children. So when I arrived in Michigan, I formed the African Women Economic Consortium as an organization that would take proactive action for change in the lives of children. So we just decided that we're going to build this village where we're going to provide housing and universities and health centers. All that sounded wonderful, and quite frankly, the community that went to Nkporo, Nigeria, was very, very receptive of the whole concept. But the only thing that was a problem was electricity and water. How do we keep that consistent when we build such a community? And then as local habit, I was able to run into this gentleman who came to our organization and received an award for his work with the Joe Dome project. And when I told him about the programmatic component of the Village of Hope, and he introduced the technology component of it, of the Joe Dome, it was a perfect fit. I was very excited, and he was excited as well. And when we presented it to the village, they immediately accepted it, and we're looking forward to building this relationship by building a village that will have access to electricity and water.
Was there anything there before? I mean, are we talking about a village that this took the place of, or what was there?
No, the village that exists there today is a beautiful place. It's not derelict or anything like that, but it's just that there are some specific things that we don't have. and we don't have it in the numbers that we should have, and that's running water and electricity. And most importantly, what we're trying to do is get the community involvement in taking care of orphan children. Thus, having a Joe Dome there will help with electricity, with water, and then the individuals in the village will feel comfortable being a part of the whole thing and welcoming these children and getting them back into the community, making them members of the community again.
Lieutenant Commander, I only got a couple of minutes left here. This has got to be an expensive proposition indeed, and how long does it take to build one of these?
Well, the actual construction time, Ed, is 18 months. The area of Africa where this is going to be built at, there's rainy seasons, which starts in June, ends in October. So the timing of it, total time is 18 months.
Why will this, in your mind, make a difference? Simply because it gives them something of structure and gives the families, the women and children there, a place to grow up? Ed,
if you're going to change civilization and you want to do it in some method that's going to create long-standing relationships with education, there's no more perfect design than this, to use this as a stepping stone for education for children, to teach them tools to use to build their own domes.
How many of these domes are currently up and running?
We've got India domes. They were built about 8 years ago after a hurricane devastation in India. Those have been in place for about 8 years now. And the site that we're looking at now from Nigeria, we're looking to try to break ground this year in December.
Dr. Osimiri, I only have about 60 seconds left. What kind of a difference have you noticed then from the families, the women, and especially the kids?
Well, what it is that we're not putting children in orphanages. We're putting them in homes where they can have, even if they don't have both parents, they at least have one parent. And then the whole philosophy of it takes a village to raise a child becomes reenacted into reality, because now the community is actually involved in the care of orphans.
I would imagine then that finally just keeping families together makes a huge difference.
Yes, it does.
Right.
Family is key.
And you're both nodding your head on that, because I can't tell you just how wonderful it is to see this, because I know you've both been working on this project for a while. Lieutenant Commander, I know it's been 8 years for you, and Dr. Osimiri, something to be able to see that in an area of the world where maybe just doing a little something good for the kids helps them grow up a little better and turns them into a better society down the road. That is brilliant itself. Dr. Osimiri, marvelous work that you've done. Lieutenant Commander Joe Byers, to you as well, marvelous work helping people in that area of the country. Thank you so much for sharing the story.
Thanks a lot, Ed. Appreciate your time.
Take care. It's a lot more than just turning left. It speaks to the competitive drive of a young man who's caught the attention of an international company. We'll talk about that when we continue right here on MidPoint.